Freak, do you find that you're, guilty of making mindless commissions of error? And is it not especially disturbing if it happens to filter into your gambling? I mean, have you had that happen to you yet?
I got married.
Were you sincere when you said I do? That you thought this was going to last until death did you part? Or were you ready to kill her after 5 minutes?
I sort of, I sort of thought that foolishly, but things happen, and
how sure were you? I mean, is it just something you wanted to believe, or did you really believe that that was going to happen? Like Lubie with Game 6 in the Heat.
No, I mean, I obviously thought, when I got married, it was going to last. I wouldn't have got married if I didn't. It's like putting in a bet. You don't put a bet in, you think you're going to lose. Like, I thought I was going to lose.
People were on the under at my, especially this last marriage, which I think, the under players got crushed.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
With the natural tendency of any degenerate gambler towards self-sabotage, I'm not sure, Lubie, that the Greek statement was true. Might want to take slight exception with that. I don't know that people don't put in bets that they think they're going to lose. What do you think, Lubie? Do you find it? I mean, you've been hanging around kind of the fringe of, this dysfunctional world that I introduced you to. Then, the professor is certainly no slouch in that category. Far more than I do. He sends it in like no tomorrow. Of course, he's a man of some, substantial means, but and it's all relative, right? I mean, if you're betting $50 a game, but you have no money, and the other guy's betting $5,000 a game, but he's filthy rich, who's really taking the shot there, Lubie? You at your 50, there's no disgrace there.
Yeah.
In fact, if you go 50, you have a pretty strong conviction, Lubie, and you doubt your own teams. There's nobody that despises his favorite teams more than you do. And so you talk about ye of little faith. That would be you, Mike Lubie Lubitz. Although, I mean, you had some faith in the Miami Heat, and you defended them, which was really unusual during the course of this postseason when everybody was ripping the Heat. And it is amazing. I think they've been underdogs in every game but one in the postseason. One of those Celtic games, I guess they were, the Knick game.
One Knick game. Yeah. I don't know if there was a Celtic game that they were favored.
They were favored in one, and that was a game that they lost. Yeah, they did lose that game.
Was the second home one. The second home one they were favored and they lost.
Anyway, good to be with you. I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun today on the program. I hope you guys will stick around because we're going to talk at about 7:30 with the play-by-play voice and one of the, I don't know what it is. Is it less than a handful of people now that have been with the Heat since their inception? I mean, this guy's been there longer than Pat Riley. Talking about Eric Reid, play-by-play voice. And if Heat culture could kind of seep its way into the broadcast booth, Eric is an example of that, is it not? I mean, he's got a winning attitude, still works very hard at it. This struck me, and I guess, I might mention this to Eric if we get a chance as part of the intro to the fact that we admire his work and his work ethic. And I've told you this story, I think, Lubie, but I remember when I was working at the Fontana Herald News, a young DeForest. I had been there about a year, and, you're looking around the environment there and thinking, if I don't get out of here soon, I'm going to die here. It's like, sometimes when I was working in restaurants, I don't have anything. Certainly this is not objectionable, but I felt like, I wanted to go in another direction. I did not want to be an old waiter. I worked in L.A. On a team of waiters with a couple of older guys that had been in the business a long, long time. I was a young guy running plates out of the kitchen there and, taking orders or whatever. But essentially, I was like the kitchen runner on a team of 3 waiters. And the other 2 guys were like in their 50s. And I thought, you know what, I love these guys, but I don't want to be them. All right. I mean, I would not that all work is good work. I believe that, Lubie. And this is not to be condescending. But I felt like, hey, I wanted to do something like this. Right. That this was it my destiny, Lubie, to be sitting in my bedroom here, in my underwear, talking to people on South Florida Live at 72? I don't know. But anyway, and I do remember this very distinctly, and I remember this meeting that took place. I had decided that to get out of there, you know me with my let's make a tape and send it out or whatever, which I never do, but I decided that I would put together like a resume page. I was in charge of 2 pages of the sports section. All right. So I had free reign over the 2 pages. I'd been there about a year. People really liked my work. So they didn't really question anything that I did. And they left you freedom. As long as you did what you were supposed to do, you could go off and do anything else. Right. So if you wanted to go cover a Dodger game or something or an Angels game, That was fine, but you did that kind of on your own time. And if you wanted to write an article about it, well, I mean, how good did that look for the Fontana Herald News, a 5,000 circulation daily that didn't even publish on Sunday, that they had a guy live covering a Dodger game that was capable of writing a reasonably good account of what went on. And for me, it's a thrill, right? I mean, you're taking, a time to sit down, have like a brew with Vin Scully, for God's sake. How great was that? Great experience. And it was a really, an outstanding time to be covering baseball because the restrictions were, just absolutely as liberal in terms of being able to access players as you could possibly find. I don't know that it would be that easy today to get the same kind of stuff that we did. As I mentioned, when, Dusty Baker won a World Series, a guy calls me into the dugout, sits down with me for a half hour. I got a little Mr. Microphone tape recorder that I was using at the time. So anyway, I wanted to put together like a column, a feature story of some significance, all on the professional kind of level. And I was going to go cover a game, and I was going to put all three of these articles and lay them out, very cleverly to show that I could do that too, on one page. And then I got my friend who was in the print shop there. They still had like a print shop that assembled the pages, and he happened to like me because I always got them out of there on time. And I had him run me off 100 copies of this paper, and I sent it out to whatever. I found like 50 newspapers I could send it out to. But one of the feature story I did was on Chick Hearn, the great Lakers announcer. I was a fan of Chick Hearn's. I had never met the guy.
Oh, really?
And no, I mean, what were the odds that I would run into Chick Hearn in Fontana, California, man? This was a shithole town where tumbleweed was blowing by the door. Now it's a, budding metropolis there in a big part of the, east L.A. suburbs. But, at that time, it was nothing. I mean, you literally question, why am I driving out here? Is it really worth it? When I first started, I was commuting from L.A. to this place like 30, 40 miles outside of L.A. And, it wasn't fun, though, because you had to be there at like 6 a.m. Imagine this kind of work ethic you've displayed at different times. But anyway, so I go down and Chick Hearn says, yeah, okay, no problem. Meet me at the Laker game, at the LA Forum, like around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a Laker game that night. I guess got underway about 7:30, Pacific time. So I schlepped down there, and I was sort of nervous. I wasn't really one to, go out there and attack a guy or whatever, and I was a little shy about the whole thing. But and Chick Hearn is already, when I get there, he's doing a game. I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's nothing going on here, Chick. What are you doing? and the guy had been doing this for like 40 years. And he still, it might have even been longer. I don't know. He's had that job forever, right? I mean, before he even had Bowling for Dollars, he had the Lakers job. And he practiced doing a game before every game. He just started rehearsing a little bit. Not that he was, he would just sort of call an imaginary game there, and sort of get himself in rhythm. And I thought, wow, that's weird, isn't it? You'd figure, a guy like I do, right? You show up at the last second and go, well, what do you got, Lubie? And that's it. And even when I was doing play-by-play, I don't know that I did an immense amount of studying before games. I usually was familiar with the players, on your own team. And it didn't take that long. I was a pretty quick study of what was going on the other team. In fact, when I was doing Canes basketball, the other team had like really good recognizable players, and we didn't. So if you knew our guys, you were bound to know the other guys. That's Gary Kittles. He's got 31 tonight. We're only in the first half here. Leonard Hamilton has already taken a jacket off, and he's thrown it against the stands. Boxing, I mean, you can do all the preparation that you want. I mean, you usually know who the guys are. Maybe not in the prelims, but certainly the main events that you're covering. And, there actually now is a tremendous source where you would have to know nothing if you just downloaded what's on a site called boxrec.com, which used to be free. I'm not sure if you have to subscribe to it now for a fee. But it was fantastic, and a great site. But I couldn't believe it that Chick Hearn was practicing his craft there when he was already established as one of the great announcers of all time. I mean, if you named off great NBA announcers, we were talking about this the other day on the Mike Mayo Lunchbox show, great announcers. But I mean, who would you have? And now I don't know all of the local guys from around the country. I'm sure people have their favorites, but you would probably put Marv number one. Maybe Johnny Most was among the most recognizable, and Chick Hearn had to, follow right in there or be right up there with those guys. No, he was
100%.
almost as revered as a play-by-play guy as Vin Scully, and yet there he is, 3 in the afternoon, after doing it for 40 years, going, there's Michael Cooper yo-yoing up and down. He's got him in a popcorn machine, and he's going through all of his stuff. It was absolutely amazing to watch, but turned out to be a real good guy. I did send that sheet out. I think I did, like 50 newspapers I found. Got a couple of bites from some big ones, and ended up moving 10 miles to Ontario, which that was after I got beaten out for a job I thought I had, man. I looked like I was going to be the beat writer for the San Bernardino Sun, which was like the big kahuna in that area. I mean, outside of L.A., the San Bernardino Sun was like the next biggest paper, aside from like the Herald Examiner they had. And they also had, you had a bunch of papers. You had the Orange County Register, what was big, L.A. Times, obviously, Long Beach, Press, big. But San Bernardino, in that so-called Inland Empire area, in other words, the desert where nobody would want to ever go, unless, you literally were like picking lettuce. What was the only other optional job there? No, they had Kaiser Steel out there, too. Real shithole when it came to the environment. Like I said, I didn't even know there were mountains back there until I had been in the town for a year.
Oh, geez.
And then one day, it was a clear day. On a clear day. And I'm looking, what the hell is that? The fucking San Andreas Fault, man, is right up the street. Incredible. I thought I was going to get the Dodger beat job from the San Bernardino Sun. I actually left there almost assured that I was going to become the beat writer for the Dodgers, which would have been a giant step forward at that time. Just the fact that you were on the beat of a pro team. I'm not sure if the San Bernardino Sun writer traveled with the Dodgers, but certainly covered all the home games and then was responsible for, all of the stories that were important about the team, which they were the most prominent team in Los Angeles. And I don't know that they still are, but they're up there, Lubie. Believe me, there's a lot of interest in the Dodgers out there. Anyway, Tracy Ringlesby, you ever hear of that guy? He ended up getting the job. He turned out he was like the sports editor's cousin, and he applied at the last second. Became famous, actually, for covering the Colorado Rockies, or became well-known, and then was, highly recognized national baseball writer. So is that like me saying, hey, we lost in the first round, but that team went on to win the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, I was going to say. He went on to be big.
Why does that still bother me 50 years later? This prick had to apply for the... No. It was great. But Hearn couldn't have been any more, that kind of professional work ethic. I could see Eric Reid being very much like that, no? Where he doesn't take it for granted that he's going to call a great game. He just makes sure. You've seen his charts, right? He's posted them sometimes on Facebook. Immense preparation. So we'll see what he thinks about the Miami Heat's chances against the Denver Nuggets. I would imagine he gives them a pretty good shot. No, much better than the general public.
I mean, ESPN has them at 11%. Like, that's my problem. Is
what are we missing though, Lubie, in just assuming Denver's going to win this thing?
Well, Jokic. I mean, it's Jokic is the
Spoelstra factor. I mean, what's going to stop them from being themselves?
Stop the Heat or the Nuggets?
No, the Nuggets. I mean, the mission here would be to somehow slow down or slightly derail the Nuggets' efficiency on offense. I'm not sure that the Nuggets, Western basketball, the score is traditionally higher in the Western Conference than they are in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Are they? I don't know.
Yes. Offense it's more offense. I mean, in modern day basketball, it's not what it was in the 80s.
No.
Pistons and the Bulls.
Right. The Western Conference has a 142, 129 game, and we're 76, 74. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's not the 80s. They're closer than they were, but you still have that aura of the West is a little bit more open. The East is a little bit more defensive. I mean, we look at the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Heat. They are better defensively than – look, the Lakers came on defensively the second half of the season, but a lot of the season they weren't seen as defensive. The Warriors were always great defensively, but people don't think of them as great defensively. And the Nuggets, I think, are competent defensively, but they're not what the Heat are doing right now.
No, they seem to yield a reasonable number of points every night, even though they're scoring like 130. Here's the thing that bothers me about the series. They're tough to beat there. That's not, an overwhelmingly subtle judgment. 8-0 in the postseason, and they've beaten good teams on their home wood in the postseason. I don't think you can discount the Suns, the Phoenix Suns. They may have had no depth at that point, but they did have Durant and Devin Booker playing dynamite basketball, both guys. And they had enough. I get Chris Paul being hurt. I don't know that really compromised the Suns' chances that much. But Denver dominated, that series, and then really thrashed the Lakers, who were playing a decent brand of basketball. It might have been inconsistent, but many people thought that Golden State was going to be a hot team in the postseason and make a run from the 6th seed in the West, very much like the Heat are making. The Heat are a completely different team, you would have to say. I mean, they went from shooting 27% from three-point range to almost 40% in the postseason, a significant margin there. And we see what a difference it makes. And then the other interesting factor is, and we'll see what Eric Reid thinks about this, the Tyler Hero possible return, where I don't know. I mean, do you see him? If the series goes deep, does he end up playing a key role in this thing, Lubie? Does it put Kyle Lowry on the bench, who the professor despises, who has been good in spots in the postseason? In fact, all of those guys, Caleb Martin has been a modicum of consistency and evolves, it seems, from series to series as a more important element and component of the Heat's attack and overall game. Gabe Vincent's been pretty consistent, although, he's had a couple of games where he wasn't much of a factor. Yeah. They keep, rotating around between, like Lowry was good in the early stages of the playoffs. Now all of a sudden he's not.
Nah, it sucks.
Duncan Robinson has been up and down, mostly up, but he's also done a vanishing act a few times in the postseason. Strus, every now and then you'll look and go, well, wait a minute, man, that guy's really good. And then he'll go through a spell where it's brick a month. Yeah, so. I mean, they probably wouldn't be hurt any by adding another guy in there who could be, possibly a plus factor for them. So we'll see. But I don't know. Well, if that's even going to get to that point, right? Because a lot of people have Denver. I don't know that Denver sweeps. That seems a little far fetched, doesn't it, Libby? What would you say? You're going to put your money down. A 5-game series, you can get plus 500 on right now.
I would say Nuggets in 6 is where I'm leaning, and but I don't want to. The Heat and I get it. Look, I actually agree. Yes, we've said this all playoffs. Are you going to keep saying it? I don't mind saying it now because the Nuggets are definitively better. The Bucks were better, 100%. I thought they'd lose to the Bucks. The way they were playing at the time, they should have lost to the Bucks. They won. Yeah. It was great, and they won pretty definitively in 5 games. The Knicks, I thought they were better, and I thought they'd win. The Celtics, I thought it was pretty even. I said I could see the Celtics winning in 7. Look, they were the home team. You see the home team winning in 7. That's a pretty even series. This is different. The Nuggets are clearly better. I don't feel bad saying that. I've said strongly the Nuggets are the best team in the NBA in the entire playoffs. I'm not going to change it now because
they look sharp. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Like what the Heat depth looks like now, because Vincent and Lowry and Martin and Robinson and Strus have all woken up. That's how they've been the entire year. like Caldwell Pope was an afterthought, and the dude, if you watch him, hits anything he puts up in the goddamn.
He's been, a very, very integral part of what kind of cleaning up. And the other guys have all been sharp. I mean, everybody else has played, up to any level of expectation you might have for them, including Jokic averaged over a triple-double in the series against the Lakers, where he was going against Anthony Davis. And you had to think that, even if Darvin Ham was just out there as a spectator, that he would, pay some attention to trying to diffuse what it is that Jokic does, which nobody's been able to figure out. And then Jokic starts hitting those clown shots almost. I mean, where he's like falling backwards, not even an inch off the ground. Anthony Davis draped all over him, and he hoists one like he's a shot putter, right? Here's Gert Bonk into the arena. I think Gert Bonk was a discus thrower, though, we found out. But anyway, some East German, laced with steroids, from the 1968 games. Just a shot puts this thing up there, and it goes in, of course. And he seems to take it all very much in stride. All right, so we're going to talk to Eric Reid about that. Heat and the Nuggets, that gets on the way tomorrow, so not too much of a wait. And then Craig Minervini going to join us later on, and we'll get into the Panthers and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. The Golden Knights. Interesting aspect of that, of course, is the whole Marchessault thing. I didn't realize this. Marchessault, what were they thinking when they put this guy on the expansion list?
He's dominant, and it's really annoying. I didn't realize he had 9 goals in 10 games. Like Kachuk, I don't know if has 9 goals in goddamn 10 games.
He's great. He's been there 6 years now. They let him go 6 years ago. Exposed him in the expansion draft on the heels of a 30-goal season. I mean, we were praying that Pavel would get 30 goals when he was with the team. We didn't have that many 30-goal scorers, did we?
No.
Radek Dvorak ever get 30 goals? How do you put this guy on the expansion list? Jonathan Marcia. So what did they think? He was too small to stay in there? Holy Dino Cicerilli. What are we talking about here? That was one of the bozo moves of all time. And then they traded Riley Smith, who's like an older guy now. I think he's like 35, but also still, an important component of what Las Vegas does. I don't know how to assess that one, Lubie. I would say pretty much even Steven, no? I mean, it's kind of like trying to figure out who's going to win the Spence Crawford fight, where you could easily make a case for either guy. I think you could, you could probably make a stronger case for the Panthers just because they seem to be on such a wave of momentum that, they have a little bit of, sort of serendipitous luck on their side too, don't they? Things break for them. They even when they're getting outplayed, they find ways to scrap their way into a position and end up winning games. And I guess what would be the prop bet on that series? How many games go to overtime? Would you take plus, over 1.5?
Oh, the Panthers. I would do
Stars. They played a lot of overtime games, as has everybody in the NHL postseason. I mean, there've been a ton of overtime games. What do you think? Golden Knights, I think were they in 3 overtime games in their last series alone?
Oh, I don't know.
Against the Stars, I think 3 of them went overtime. The first 2 did, yeah. 3 overtime games. Incredible. So what do you think? I don't know what the prop bet is on that, but naturally, why look into who's going to win the series when you can look into something completely obscure that nobody in their right mind would ever make a wager on? That'd be the way to go. All right, Minnie should have some insight into that. I did want to mention this before we get into Eric Reid. I was talking about this on Defo on 5. Spectacular. If you have YouTube, access like the last couple of games of the Gael Monfils Sebastian Baez match yesterday. Baez, a dirtballing motherfucker from Argentina. He's the mini. I guess he's the Hispanic non-Jewish version of our man Diego Schwartzman. Right? And you became a Schwartzman fan, right? Because you found out he was Jewish, number one. And number two, here's a guy, he's like 5'5". He's going against John Isner, who is like 6'11". And, it was like Ernie DiGregorio playing Bob McAdoo in the old Vitalis one-on-one. So you're thinking, what kind of a mismatch is this? And then the guy would go out there and just on the red clay, the great equalizer, the quicksand for talent when it comes to pro tennis. These guys from South America are brilliant on this stuff, right? They grew up on it. I think they played in the sand. They might have played right on the beach, right? Giselle Bundchen's walking by, right? Some guy from Brazil. Remember, who was the guy? Curtin. Remember Gustavo Curtin? Remember that guy? Brazilian guy? Skinny with, like a big afro. Looked like he could have been a drummer in Grand Funk Railroad if he wasn't a tennis player. Hey, is that Don Brewer out there with a racket? I don't know. But anyway, I mean, you have to watch this, people. I've never seen a sporting. We've been talking about sporting atmospheres, and we mentioned this on Defo on 5 reasons. I don't know that I've seen an atmosphere quite as insane. I've been to boxing matches where the crowd was completely one-sided in favor of one guy, and but I've never quite seen anything like this. I mean, we've seen tennis crowds get really emotional at the U.S. Open. These French fans, I mean. Are they known to me? You were in France, right, Lubie? Are they as rude as, people speculate that the whole country is just based on rudeness?
No. I mean, they weren't to us. Shirley can speak French.
Like you ask a guy to toast your croissant a little more and he tells you to go fuck yourself.
They weren't rude at all. No. They weren't. They won't go out of their way for you. Like if you ask them for directions, they don't give a shit. But
dirty look. They deliberately speak French, even though they speak fluent English.
They're not gonna just go out of the way to help you. But they weren't mean. Like when you're at the restaurants, they take care of you. In the streets, they're not like, "Oh, you dirty American." Like they were cool to us. I had no problem with them. People were cool.
I always like when you're in a foreign country and you have no idea what the other person is saying, and they have no idea what you're saying, but you sort of come to an agreement anyway. Hey, yeah, that's it. That kind of thing. These French fans, though, were fantastic yesterday. I do suggest anybody that's a tennis fan or a fan of great sporting experiences, take a look at this. Because Monfils is finished. I mean, and I have never... This guy gutted it out. I mean, literally, what could you compare it to? I mean, it was like the Japanese gymnast who jumped off the still rings, and knowing he had a broken leg and had to stick a landing there from like 12 feet above the mat. Remember when they would break out? Did they do that when you were in gym class? When they had like gymnastics apparatus? Oh my God! That was every Jew immediately wrote out forged a medical from his mother. I had one permanently on file, and I printed. I think they were wondering why. What was that called when you had like a carbon copy of stuff? What were those machines called that you used to print
Photocopier?
copies of? What's that?
Photocopier?
Not a photocopy. This is even preceding that. I mean,
Fax
we're
machine?
talking, ancient times. We're talking Cro-Magnon man. And I had a zillion of these, and they would wonder why they were written sort of in purplish ink. But yeah, there's still rings. Forget about that, Louie. Did you ever try that? The
No,
Iron Cross?
I did gymnastics once. My mom when we were little, and I hated it.
I was horrible at it.
I'm not a heights fan, so at that age, I definitely wasn't willing to take risks. I don't enjoy that at all.
Balance beam. I was like Dean Martin on the balance
I
beam.
hate that stuff. Yeah, I hate it.
Foster Brooks. Just any known alcoholic that you could reference there. I mean, you could just throw it in there. That's kind of how I was. And the pommel horse, that was impossible. Come on, Lubie. I mean, those cuts and splits. I mean,
hated all of it.
What am I, a fucking Gumby?
I hated all of it.
The coaches had to just laugh, right, when the Jewish kids got on there, like me. Especially, I was probably a little heavier then. No. I mean, I sort of slimmed down when I was like 16. I got in real good shape, but I still couldn't do any of that shit. I mean, that was impossible. But that was Monfils yesterday. I mean, cramping Michael Chang, I guess, would be the comparison. Do you remember that match with Michael Chang? Who did he beat? He beat Lendl at the French Open. Was that in the final? Did he win a championship there? I believe that was the final match. He eventually had to serve one underhand because he could barely even stand up. And Chang was just gutting it out. And when you see a guy that's clearly hurting, I mean, this was Arturo Gatti with a racket yesterday, this Monfils, and the crowd went nuts. So if you want to enjoy a sporting atmosphere, I suggest. You think anybody's actually going to go to YouTube and look up the last few points of this Monfils match?
I mean, they can. I mean, my mom was talking about the match too. She was just.
Oh, laughing. She was? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
She was just laughing because she's like, he can't get through it. Like he's rolling his pants up. He's doing anything.
He was done after the third set. He was done. He still had to play 2 more sets to win this thing. The fourth set, he basically just like had thrown in the towel and was out there thinking, well, if I get lucky with a bunch of serves, maybe I can eke it out in the fifth set. I'm surprised he didn't just retire right there. And it wouldn't surprise me if he dropped out of the tournament after that. Because, he's about to get crucified in the next round by the young Lubie stud that you spotted with Patrick Mouratoglou many years ago. When you had Mouratoglou on, what we have him on like every week during the pandemic there. It was like, hey, who do we got this week? And we were calling this guy in like Australia or something, or Monte Carlo, wherever he was.
Yeah, he was in Monte Carlo, 100%.
He's now working with Coco Gauff also.
Wow.
Big win also. Yeah.
Nice.
This guy has a little bit, I don't know if it's Bollettieri. I mean, because I'm not sure. There were a lot of different theories about what level of influence Bollettieri actually had as a tennis coach. But I don't know. Has anybody had more success? Of course, he was working with Serena there for a while when we got to know him. But wow, I mean, everybody that he gets involved with, this Holger Rune is a hell of a force. So he plays Monfils next. And I don't know that Gael Monfils, will be able to, muster up much of an effort in that one because he was absolutely, finished, literally. That was like the winner of the fight being carried out on a stretcher, and the two guys are in adjacent beds in a hospital, and they're shaking hands like Gotti Ward. All over again. All right, we're coming back with Eric Reid. Eric Reid going to join us, play-by-play voice, extraordinary man, and a real gentleman. He's going to join us next here on the Defo Show. I'm Jeff DeForest. That's Mike Lubie Lubitz. Thanks for tuning in. And back with Eric Reid and some insight into Heat Nuggets in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:31.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Are we all in stable but critical condition? Is that the way all life is, Lubie? In a
like
general, more figurative sense? Would you say you're in stable but critical condition? I believe you are right now.
Probably.
On the threshold of getting married in the early portion of 2021. Don't you think it's a little soon, kid? You barely noticed woman. What are you
We've
doing?
been together 4 years.
Well, I guess you know enough.
How much longer do you want her to put up with me?
Is it you that's pushing for this?
It's equal. We're both very happy and in love. It's very gross.
Oh, my God. All right. It's a foreign concept. You have to understand where I'm coming from. 0 for 2 with a walk. And, right now I think I got a 3-2 count and marriage number 3. But, and only because of the benefit of a really poor call on a ball that was clearly right down the middle of the plate. One of those Angel Hernandez calls. Get out of here.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Louis, the memory lapses, the dementia, the inability to recall things from the distant past. But I had a couple of people weigh in on this, including the very celebrated food critic and the man behind Let's Eat South Florida and Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, Mike Mayo. A gentleman named Hector got it first, the mimeograph machine. Remember that? And it was weird because you could get high off the smell when you were a kid. So you were always volunteering. Yeah, I'll go mimeograph 100 copies of that. But I do remember firing off about 100 copies of my medical excuse. And anytime there was either a workout or gymnastics, rope climbing too. I mean, why subject a Jewish kid to climbing a rope, Lubie? Did you have any success at that? I could kind of see you scatting your way up the ropes there and making it all the way to the ceiling, touching, and then, shimmying on down, and landing. In a very soft fashion, but not me, man. I couldn't, chin-ups, horrible at that, pull-ups, any of that stuff. Shooting a basketball from 40 feet, that was me. I was all in on that. All right, we're going to be joined here, and shortly, it's going to be about another 10 minutes. We'll have Eric Reid joining us here on the program, so looking forward to talking to Eric. They have been broadcasting on Fox Sports Sun with Ron Rothstein, John Crotty, and I would imagine some of the rest of their cast. Although, Jason Jackson, he's also part of the broadcast team there still, I would imagine. And they have been broadcasting, which is good to get the local insight, especially when the national media, they finally have had like a little bit of a turning of the corner in terms of giving the Heat a minor dose of respect. Is that a fair statement, Lubie? Have you noticed that?
The finals. I
Yeah.
I hope. And it's not like that. Like, I know the Nets made like back-to-back in the early 2000s, but if you watched the NBA, you knew they had no shot, like, because the East sucked. So they went through a shitty East. Like, that was not the case here. The Heat faced the two best teams in the NBA's regular season, and that wasn't the Nuggets. The Nuggets actually, again, because they're always injured, of course, they're now healthy because they're playing the Heat, so I wouldn't
Yes.
now.
Well, and they've been off for like 2 weeks also, like the
Yeah,
Panthers.
so if they were injured, they would have healed an ACL by this fucking time. The Celtics and the Bucks were the two best teams with the two best odds to win the title going into the playoffs. So this isn't that Nets with Jason Kidd and Vince Carter, and they were fun, but you knew the Spurs and the Heat were going to beat them. Like, you knew whether it was the playoffs or the finals, they weren't going anywhere. Like, this is not that. The Heat have faced really good competition. The Knicks, okay. But the Bucks and the Celtics were teams that were healthy and people thought would win. So the Heat should have gotten a lot more benefit of the doubt than they've gotten. But now that you're in the friggin' finals, yes, it's about time. But no, I mean, look, they're still getting 11%. And look, I think the Nuggets will win the series. But I don't think it's going to be a walkover. And I think these odds are stupid. 8.5? Come on, man.
8.5 tonight. I mean, one thing the Nuggets do that has been impressive in going 12-3 in the postseason, 8-0 at home. They do close games very well. I mean, we saw how sloppy the Celtics were. And those were, signs that started to surface, after the All-Star break, which, you're thinking, well, that was a midway point of the season, Defo. But if you'll remember, the All-Star game was played after game 72. And there were like 10 games left in the season. Playing the All-Star game, which it was so bad this year. And that was one of the great things about Mike Malone, the coach with the Denver Nuggets, who said that this was the worst piece of shit that the NBA has ever staged in the history of the league. And you're thinking, I like that guy, man. Most guys, that were coaching in the league would not have said that. They would have said, hey, a fine showcase for some of our superstars. When in reality, it was just a complete and total embarrassment, was it not?
Honestly.
So, I like him. Everything I've seen him say in post-game press conferences, just smacks of a very solid, feet on the ground, mature approach to these sort of circumstances. Missoula, I wasn't as down on Missoula. I guess he didn't do much from a coaching standpoint. I'm not sure. Is there anything specific that we could point to? We being, of Hubie Brown and, Doc Ramsey. We having, this kind of insight into the game. Is there anything you can look at and say, oh my God, the Heat could do this that much better? Or, you're looking at Denver and thinking, what could they, possibly do, to, do they have to concern themselves with derailing the Heat, as much as the Heat do, diffusing the Denver offense? Not sure where that stands. And, you're looking at the collection of Heat players that have put together, very decent, postseason contributions. And is that enough? I don't know. Denver, you were thinking, we're always thinking they have the deeper team. Whoever goes against the Miami Heat is a favorite. Do they have the deeper team? They only have like 7 guys that play, right? Did they play anybody beyond? They have Jeff Green, who was mentioned on the show yesterday. And when he popped up on the court there, I didn't even know he was still alive. Jeff Green. He was playing for like John Thompson, wasn't he? Wasn't he a big John Thompson guy? Not junior, senior. So what's that, like 20 years ago? When did he come into the league? He came in, he broke in with Cousy, this Jeff Green.
Green was there, and then,
it's like 16 years or so, right?
It's not 16 years.
I think so.
Like 12, 13 years. He's in his mid-30s. It's like 12, 13 years.
Okay. And, of course, Bruce Brown, we really didn't. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, University of Miami. But did he even play at the University of Miami?
He was there. He was a 5-star. He was a big-time recruit, and he was hurt his entire freshman year. And then he went to the league. And he's been
exactly, yeah. So he didn't do much here. He probably saw the campus less than I did at Syracuse.
Honestly, yeah.
Which is saying a lot, considering that Vernon Downs was within close proximity. The mimeograph machine, Lubie. You never got high, like making a bunch of carbon copies?
I think Xerox was.
How archaic is the mimeograph machine by today's
I've never heard that name. I came around, I've messed with microfiche, which is old school, but even when I was using microfiche, it was already outdated and old.
Microfiche is like a Ron Popeil invention compared to what's out there today.
I don't know about mimeograph. I've never seen that. I don't.
Kind of crazy. That's for sure. And we have to wait till Saturday before the Cats get underway, and I don't know what to tell you about that. That's why I'm happy that Craig Minervini is going to come on. Now, naturally, Minnie's going to feel like, hey, we're in there with a real shot, and they are.
Well, I think they are the better team. Vegas is only because they have the home ice.
Which has meant nothing. It really has.
It means nothing.
Literally, meant nothing.
So your momentum only means so much. The Panthers literally have played the 3 best teams in hockey. The Devils had a better record. Going into the playoffs, the 3 best odds to win it all were 1, the Bruins, 2, the Maple Leafs, 3, the Hurricanes. The Vegas Knights have had much easier competition, and the Panthers have demolished. I get it. Each games were tough, and the series were tough. But when you look at the outcomes after the Bruins, and again, remember, they won 3 in a row versus the Bruins. So they finished the Bruins off in 3 games, then beat the Maple Leafs in 5 games, and their 4 best players, who were some of the best players in hockey, did nothing in that series. And then they swept the Hurricanes, who, again, at that time, people thought were the favorites. So they're the best team right now. They are, whether people want to admit it or not, and we're scared to admit it because the Heat.
Well, we're afraid. And I'm banking on Rabko Gudis to kind of be like Quasimodo on skates in this series here and just start clobbering Las Vegas Golden Knights. No, they strike me as being sort of very similar. From what I've seen, I'm not sure. We've become hockey experts now, Louis, over the last several weeks. Coming from nowhere in this sport. And you start to recall, I used to watch that, but I was watching a game when Boom Boom Jeffrion was taking a slap shot from the blue line. And, it was like, wow, did you see that? Now you got like 30 guys in front of the goal. They're flying around. They're blocking shots with their head. It's incredible what these guys are doing. You have to constantly remind yourself, they're on fucking ice skates.
Yes, that's the thing.
They're on skates.
Yes.
And they're doing this stuff, man. I mean, the passes are crisp, and you see the patterns and everything. But it strikes me from what I've been, and maybe does the game just take on an overall similarity where all teams kind of look the same? In terms of the way they approach the game, or can you actually see like distinct differences between certain teams? I mean, certainly when individual players get out there that have a little bit more style than the others. You see this McDavid get out there on the ice, you can't help but notice him, right? It was like Lindros had that, although he was not that great of a player overall. I don't think statistically you would think, and in terms of championships, was Lindros' career not a bit of a disappointment compared to
won? That was his issue. He was as good as any player in hockey. Remember, he was a physical dude who was a savant offensively. Like Lindros was as good an offensive player, as good an all-around player at his time. And his time in hockey was my favorite time in hockey. I mean, hockey was fucking loaded. Hockey was right there as a national sport when Lindros was great. So he just never won. And again, you had the Penguins winning, and you had the Avalanche dominating, and you had the Red Wings dominating. So it was hard for
you had some great teams. Yeah. I mean, the Red Wings were fantastic with the Russian line. Yeah.
The Red Wings with Cicerelli and Yzerman and Fedorov and the goalies with Osgood and Vernon. Like, then you go to the Avalanche, who had their 4 or 5 fucking Hall of Famers. Like, so it was hard for the Flyers to, and then the Penguins still had their run. Lemieux and Yager still had their time. So, but Lindros was great. Lindros was literally first ballot Hall of Fame.
Oh, he was huge, man. I mean, he was Jim Brown on skates. He really was.
Too, and he wasn't scared to get in there and mix it up. He just never won. So they always held that against him.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing Tkachuk play, with that kind of, distinction. He's not Lindros in terms of size, but he's been as big as Lindros and maybe bigger in terms of results. And yet, I mean, the funniest thing is that this Marchessault guy, I mean, I didn't realize he had 9 playoff goals, Louis, until you mentioned it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I knew he was scoring, but, he's been, a huge catalyst, obviously, for the whole 6 years that he's been there. And this Panther connection is, as our good friend Al Barnstein would say, is kind of intriguing, is it not? Because do these guys come back to haunt the Panthers 6 years later and deprive them of their first Stanley Cup in their second Stanley Cup appearance? And here's a team that's got 2 Stanley Cup Finals appearances in 6 years as an expansion team. Where did Gary Bettman fuck this up? Incredible. All right, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll get into that with Craig Minervini, but we want to introduce this gentleman to you, and it's always a pleasure. And as I mentioned, probably, an example of how Heat culture has actually, and there he is, the handsome one himself, it seeped into the booth. I believe you do epitomize Heat culture, Eric Reid, with your work ethic and your approach and the way that you always inspire me to think, yes, we're in there with a chance. Eric Reid, play-by-play voice of the Miami Heat. How are you, my friend? You're looking good.
Yeah, doing great, Defo. Nice to start the day on your program.
Oh, very good. And you said that with, the same kind of sincerity that Lubie was using when he was saying, "Oh yeah, I think we can beat the Celtics. They're not that good of a team." Well, what do you've seen everything. You've been there since the beginning. You've seen it all. Have you seen anything quite like this?
No.
Or is it all different in its own way?
Nothing even remotely close to this. And think about it. It's the 7th Eastern Conference title, 7th trip to the NBA Finals. But the first one, it's unique. It's been a joyful journey. And I would say in the playoffs, the only time we've made it this far, unencumbered by the heavy expectations that usually accompany a team that's this good and gets this far. There were always expectations of the Heat in 06 with Dwayne and Shaq, the 4 straight years in the finals with 3 guys you're all well acquainted with, LeBron, Dwayne, and CB. This was totally unexpected. A Heat team that just managed to qualify for the playoffs, winning the second of 2 playoff games after losing at home to Atlanta and almost not making it. So they have defied statistics and odds makers. Defo, I know you're a fan of that part of the sport. underdogs in 17 of the 18 playoff games
Yes.
they've been in. So undaunted. I'm calling them the underdog with the overbite, and not done yet. They are not the least bit satisfied. So it's been an incredible run. And, listen, you talk about, I don't know if Heat culture has ever been illuminated this well, where it's so undeniable with this cast of players and this route that they took, knocking off the top seed in the Bucks, knocking off the team with the second best record in the league in the Celtics, after almost becoming, on the wrong end of history. With that 3-0 lead, all of a sudden the series gets tied at 3. And Defo, the way it got tied, with the most soul-crushing loss in the history of the franchise. I mean, more painful than the Allen Houston shot. That was in the first round.
Yes.
This was, a tenth of a second away from punching your ticket to the NBA Finals. And to lose a game in that painful fashion, and to come back 48 hours later and do what they did, I thought, other than June 20th, 06, winning their first championship at Dallas, I put that win in Game 7 at Boston right up there with that first championship victory as the most spectacular win in Heat history. And you got to put Game 6 against the Spurs and Game 7 against the Spurs. Those are your top games ever. But this last one, Defo, so meaningful and so memorable. And what they did was erase what would have been the most painful moment in the history of the franchise, the Derek White tip-in with a tenth of a second left. Yes. You know what that's become now? Sort of a testament of all that Miami has had to overcome to get to where they are. So unique and special, and still, 4 games left to win against a team that nobody's given Miami a chance against, which is just perfect for the script they are reading and following and writing.
Yeah, exactly where you would want to be if you're playing with that kind of attitude. That go ahead and discount us, and that has been a gift. I mean, the number of games where the Heat have beaten the spread and been overwhelming underdogs in games where you thought, wait a minute, who made this line? It's almost better than getting under the table cash at a Miami City Hall meeting. I mean, just the money that's being accumulated by the faithful South Florida fans, including my son, who took the Heat when I believe this was after the Knicks series. We're still 16-1 to win the championship. So he's faced now with the ultimate question. It's not, why is this night different from all other nights in the Jewish tradition, but to hedge or not to hedge. At 40, he can make his own decision, though, Eric. I can assure you. I mean, the magic question.
You definitely brought the right baby home from the hospital.
That's what he texted me the other day. He's at Disney World. He goes, "Do I hedge, Dad?" I'm like, I don't know, about 4-1. May as well just ride this one out and hope you cash with the Heat. So I mean, everybody's asking what the hell happened out there. I mean, and we had to do a great amount of research, Eric, and we went all the way back to like ancient Chinese proverbs on this, and analyzing all the Hubie Brown sabermetrics and everything. It came to us that he who makes shots wins game, and all of a sudden. You can use that if you want. If you're going to do some play-by-play, he who makes shots wins game. That might get you in a jackpot on terrestrial television there. But and all of a sudden he can shoot. So is there anything distinctive there? I mean, were guys hurting? Were there a bunch of rotator cuff tears or something during the regular season? A great shooting team from a year ago became bricklayers, and now they've resurrected themselves and are back on their game.
It's part of the story of this season. When you look at the regular season, the Heat were the lowest scoring team in the league at 109.5 points a game. They were in the bottom 3 or 4 in both field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. It was hard to explain. There were nights where it was difficult to watch. I'm not, listen, if you listen to Coach Spoelstra and you really paid attention to the statistics over the last 15 or 20 games, what he was saying was true, that, the Heat were trending in an improved direction on the offensive end late in the season. But to average 124 points a game in the Bucks series and just simply outscore and outplay the team that had the most wins in the NBA. Okay, then they go to the Knicks series, and that played like, we stepped back into the time tunnel and went back to 97 through 2000. I mean, the Heat averaged 104 in that series, but held the Knicks to 100. So it played like it used to play. And then the Celtics series, I mean, ESPN analytics gave Miami a 3% chance. First of all, you know how
whose numbers were they looking at?
I don't know. But,
Yeah.
you know, the Heat-Knicks series, the Knicks' best way to beat you was offensive rebounding. They beat Cleveland in 5 games while shooting just 42% because they crashed the offensive board and cashed in on second chance points. The Heat neutralized that. We move on to the conference finals. What do the Celtics do best? Shoot the 3. Miami basically unplugged that, and you saw how Boston struggled early in the series from 3, and in the last 2 games, they were like 20% from 3. So the Heat have a great way of taking away strengths. But I want to get back to your original question. How have the Heat righted themselves offensively? Listen, the loss of Tyler Hero, it hurt in a lot of ways. It helped in one particular way. I think it simplified the offense. And Coach Spo directed that offense to go through 2 players primarily, Bam and Jimmy. For the most part, they have kept the turnovers down. The ball has moved spectacularly well. That ball finding the energy of open shooters. And I think the Heat set some sort of record for the percentage they shot on wide open threes in the conference finals. The way they are sharing it and moving it. Look how many backdoor layups Duncan Robinson got in that series against the Celtics. So it's teamwork, it's execution, it's terrific defense and attention to detail, and a superstar in Jimmy Butler, who is so unselfish, so fundamentally sound, and a guy that plays with that kind of competitive fire, but also that high a basketball IQ. He's special. And I think, you know, Heat Nations appreciate him. This is our second trip to the finals in his 4 years there, third trip to the conference finals in his 4 years in Miami. So Heat Nation is appreciating him. And I think he's getting the kind of, you know, national respect now that he has worked for his whole career, and he's definitely earned it. I hope he gets it. It's the only thing he plays for, and now he's 4 wins away from becoming, for the first time, an NBA champion.
Look, you knew what you were getting with Jimmy Butler. For the most part, we knew we were getting with Bam Adebayo. Down here, when you watch the Heat, you know the names: Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus. But this year, those guys, it felt like Vincent did, but the rest of them didn't take like Caleb Martin was supposed to take a huge step this year, and it felt like he didn't. So you went into these playoffs where the national media really didn't understand the Heat role players. The Heat did, you did. Look, the Heat throughout their history have been great at getting these guys to play above their head and play well. I don't know if you've ever seen a guy go from a nice role player to a freaking star like we've seen Caleb Martin. Like what Caleb Martin has done in front of our eyes from each series. And again, the Heat are really good at this. I'm trying to remember another Heat player that went from, oh, he's really contributing to, oh, thank God he has the ball. Like it literally went from you being scared of Caleb Martin shooting to going, give it to Caleb. Like you wanted Caleb Martin to shoot that ball. He had ice in his veins in this last series. In game 7, he literally had his career playoff high, and you saw it coming. Like, have you ever seen it, even with all the Heat done with role players, a guy ascend to this level in front of the toughest competition as Caleb Martin has?
No, that's a great question, Lubie. No, I think it's one of the great stories we've ever watched unfold right before our eyes. And you know, Caleb, I think a little like Kyle Lowry, accepting of a changing role. Again, willing to do whatever it takes to win. But listen, he came up the hard way, not drafted, cut by Charlotte, a 2-way contract to come to Miami. That 2-way extended to a real deal. You know, but how far he's come. He had a DNP CD, did not play, coach's decision in game 7 last year against the Celtics. And he was among the most important players in game 7 this year. Hey, he played 45 of the 48 minutes. He's become indispensable and invaluable. And remember, he started for a lot of the season. And then Coach Spoelstra took him out of the starting lineup to put Kevin Love in upon Love's acquisition, you know, in late February. He didn't flinch. He didn't pout. He didn't complain. He just produced off the bench, which was the role he excelled in last year. And now, you know, in the series against the Celtics, Spo puts him back into the starting lineup. He was, you know, 2 votes away from being MVP of the conference finals. He was certainly among the most impactful player for Miami. I mean, over 19 points a game, 60% shooting, nearly 50% from three. You saw the great skill level emerge, a confidence in him that you didn't even know he had that kind of confidence. The shots he was taking and making, and Defo, what I've told Caleb so many times, I've said this to his twin brother Cody, who's been in Miami for this whole playoff run. Cody plays for Charlotte. The thing I admire and respect more about Caleb than any player that I can remember in the history of the franchise, and I only remember saying this about him. I've not used this term on any other player, but what Martin does to make himself so special, equal amounts of athleticism and energy on both ends of the floor every single time he plays. I think he's the Heat's most athletic player. He uses that athleticism and his energy on defense, where he is a big-time stopper and will have to be again against Denver. And now he's become a guy that can get you points in a variety of ways. So he's making himself a lot of money. He is enhancing his reputation, and he's trying to help the Heat do the hardest thing in the world, win an NBA championship.
A real pro, too. I mean, we were talking about you in the context that your professionalism reminds me of the great Chick Hearn, the great late Chick Hearn, who I had a chance to interview a long, long time ago. And I was amazed that he did like a practice of a game before every game after he'd been doing it for like 40 years. He was there at like 3 in the afternoon calling an imaginary game, Coop, yo-yoing up and down. I mean, I'm like, what is this man doing? He's gone insane. And he said that he always followed that routine. And then, when you put those charts up on social media, I'm like, Jesus, Eric, I was more inclined to just show up, hope a margarita was on the desk, and, start saying, well, the shot clock's at 9. So a very, very, professional approach by Caleb Martin also. And I guess once again, we have to go back to this mysterious Heat culture and say maybe that was part of the reason he was able to cultivate that. One more thing, Pat Riley, I mean, he has to be loving this. I mean, the only thing that could have been better, I loved it that the Boston fans left that arena looking like they had just stepped off the Andrea Gale, on a day cruise. And you're thinking, I mean, they looked sick. Riley was kind of, doing the old Red Auerbach, man. He stopped just short of lighting up a cigar. I guess if he could smoke inside, he might have done that. And the only thing that would have been better is if Danny Ainge was still with the Celtics organization. But I mean, Riley's got to be loving this. I mean, like never before. This is his kind of thing, is it not?
Oh, it is. Winning is his thing, and competing and playing for a championship. Listen, that's the ultimate goal every year for the Heat. And while nobody else believed in it, there were 17 players and a whole coaching staff and basketball operations staff, and even the business side that believed that this team could do it. It goes back to the identification of the kind of talent and character that works in Miami, and then the development of that talent. We've seen it over and over again, but that's why I say the illumination of our culture this year, to me, it's more undeniable than ever before. What's funny about the Celtics series? I was anxious before every single game in that series, except the last one.
Yeah,
I mean,
wow.
even after the Heat won the first two in Boston, I was a nervous wreck for Game 3 because you realize if you lose that one, then all of a sudden the two road wins just didn't carry as much weight. Even at 3-0, there was anxiety because I realized that as soon as Boston wins a game, the series has a chance to change, because if it goes 3-1, which it did, and Boston just does what you expect them to do, win a game at home, then that series comes back to Miami 3-2 and a much different series. And of course, they were fortunate to get the Game 6 win. But the reason I was comfortable and confident in Game 7 is because the whole world thought the series was over.
Yes.
And I just felt like if even 1% of that attitude and mentality got into the Celtics' minds, and it's human nature that it would, Miami just blitzed them from the start, thoroughly outplayed them. The Celtics looked a lot like they did in Game 3 and Game 7. They let go of the rope. And Miami had the lead since the 4-11 mark of the first quarter. You imagine a Game 7 at Boston and only one lead change. The Heat just dominated.
I thought I saw the Chief fall out of the rafters.
Great moments in franchises. Listen, we never won a Game 7 on the road until that game.
Wow.
We never had a playoff series where the Heat won 3 road games until the conference finals. And the poetic justice of doing to Boston what Boston did to us a year earlier, beat us 3 times at home. Only time in our history that's ever happened. And the painful loss of a game 7 at home, a perfect payback. And what an incredible way to advance to the NBA Finals for the 7th time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch that take place, and as we said, the devastating blow to Boston after the Panthers had taken them out was equally satisfying here for a South Florida sports fan. All right, I have to run this by you real quick. I always thank you for your time, but and it's possible we bring home the Larry O'Brien with your beloved Heat. Aaron Rodgers, could it be 16-1 to win the Super Bowl? The very same number my son is getting on Miami if they can beat Denver. What do you think? Your Jets, do they do something this year, or is this yet another false alarm?
I don't think there's anything false about this. They had a pretty good team last year, other than the quarterback position. Most of that team is back. I think the offensive line will be better. Going from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers, my God, that's a seismic upgrade. That is a seismic upgrade. Listen, they haven't been to the playoffs, I think, since 2012. I think they are relevant in a way that they haven't been in a long, long time. So I'm excited about it and looking forward to it. But right now, that's on the back burner for obvious reasons.
All right, yeah, it's like Dellavedova going to Jimmy Butler. I mean, pretty good transition there. Eric, we love you, man. Fine job. When can we catch? I know Ron Rothstein mentioned, and I see you guys in the background of the TNT show. Well, you and John Crotty, you're actually doing some broadcasts from the arenas, are you not?
No, we're just trying to get into the TNT shots.
Everybody does, man. They got everybody out crowding around Shaq and company.
The 2 things we are doing through these playoffs, after the first round, there is no more local TV coverage. So Crotty, myself, Ron Rothstein, Jackson, Amy Audibert, often we're joined at home by Jeremy Taché. We're doing full 1-hour post-game shows.
Oh, nice.
On Bally Sports Sun and live always on the Bally Sports app after every playoff game. Crotty and I also, I've been doing this since the late 90s. The Heat asked me to do this a long time ago, and it's become sort of a playoff tradition. I do a fake call of every game that the Heat record. They use it for social media and archival purposes. It's weird. I don't really have any concern how it's used. I'm so happy to do it, whether it gets used or not used. And some people look at me like I'm crazy because I get so into the fake broadcast that we forget that it's not real. And you know what it's done for me, Defo, all these years? I don't even care that nobody's hearing it. I get to do it.
Yes.
So I'm enjoying calling each one of these games, experiencing it with our fan base and our team, and enjoying the ride every second of it. So we look forward to these finals. And Defo, you know the kind of respect and admiration we've had for you over 30 plus years.
Oh, wow,
you are unique. I'm glad you're still on the air, and it's always fun to talk to you.
Well, and we know that feeling about doing what you said was a fake show, because we've been wondering forever, including many program directors in our past, hey, you got a following or what? I mean, there's nobody out there. Sponsors don't get a call for months. No, I know that feeling well.
Who needs listeners?
We love you, Eric. Thanks, man.
Enjoy the ride.
Be well. And hey, just like we had 2 teams in the Final Four in college basketball, which I'm still not sure South Florida really understood the magnitude of that. I live a minute from FAU up here in Boca. When they were in the Final Four, there was not one visible sign in Boca Raton that this was going on, but it was incredible. And now to have 2 teams in the final round, the Panthers and the Heat at the same time, and by the way, the cross enjoyment and respect that the 2 franchises are showing for each other. The Dolphins have jumped in with their head coach being at games for both teams. This is a great time to be a sports fan down here, and hope it gets one huge level greater in the next couple of weeks.
Got my pots and pans and my fingers crossed for my son. So let's go Heat. Excellent, Eric. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Be well.
Eric Reid, man.
Eric's the best.
Solid pro, man. That guy's great. If anybody, I mean, he's got a little poet laureate type of, instinct also, the way he puts things. Very much like Iron Eagle, can sort of paint you and illustrate a picture of what it was like. And I do believe that Heat culture is seeped into the booth. Do you not also think that has happened, where Eric is so entrenched in this Heat culture that it comes out even in the broadcast? All right, this is going to be great. Tony Segreto going to join us. I'll do a little old school today here on the program, and then later on, Craig Minervini talking about shoot the puck, the Panthers. And you think Minnie's happy? Is he going to be schlepping on the road there to Vegas? That's a nice assignment, isn't it?
Not sure, but Minnie in Vegas is a scary thought.
Frightening, yes. I don't even want to say it. He gets mad when I mention this. All right, we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that
The time.
it's 8:08. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor, where are we going this time?
It would not be surprising when we found out after the fact there, when they do like a last dance on this Miami Heat season, they win the championship, and we found out that Ed Garcia was called in to give one of the inspirational speeches of Texas Roadhouse restaurants. And every time I see this man, I get hungry for one of those great steaks and some of the fine things they serve at Texas Roadhouse. A great place to watch all of these games, by the way. It's going to be rocking. We welcome to the show, and always great to see our dear friend and legendary broadcaster, the great Tony Segreto, going a little old school. Tony, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine. I'm fine, Defo. How are you? Hello, Lubie. Hello, Lubie.
Good morning, great one. How are you?
Yeah, we're doing great. All right. I mean, we keep saying this, and it's Cinderella City. I mean, the Panthers are like James J. Braddock on skates, and the Miami Heat to crush. We were, trying to find enough ways to say how depressed the Boston crowd was, right? And I do think it looked like they went fishing with Clooney on the Andrea Gale after that game. Didn't they? Like, what? We're not coming back? What are you talking about? What do you make of it, Tony, with your 40-plus years down here in South Florida?
What more can be said than what's already been said? I mean, it's been a great run. It's been fantastic. It goes to 7 games. It surpasses all our expectations by far. And what more can be said? I mean, listen, I take this championship run with a grain of salt, and just play with the money that we have and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, being familiar with the idea of having house money in hand, I can
Giving
also
it
lose that, and a
Well,
significant
put the
portion
house
of your
money away.
motivations, yeah.
Put the house money
Come
away.
on, Tony,
And
quitting is, I mean,
come
it's
on,
fun.
man.
There
Yeah.
you
You
go.
got it. You got to have a little, a little
Stash.
buffer.
My son has the Heat at 16-1. He bought into it. I believe that was after the Knicks series. They still were 16-1 dogs
16-1. That's
to
wild.
win the championship, and you would have, given them a very limited chance of beating the Boston Celtics. Even Lubie, a diehard Heat fan, was doubtful, and cynical about their chances, and they managed to somehow do it after. I mean, they were one step away from total infamy, Tony.
I know.
And I don't know that ever happens again. I mean, think about it: 150 times this situation has occurred, and never has anybody gotten out of it. And there was Boston looking like they had everything going their way.
Well, when the game started, it was, I think it was 9-5 or 10-5.
9-4 to begin, yeah.
Boston. And I'm thinking, well, we could go either way here. And then we just exploded after that. And it was funny. It was funny. It was funny to watch the Boston crowd go down, and then they were just sitting on their hands and sitting on their, and Lubie, to your point, talking to, I listened to the interview with Eric Reid. Caleb Martin is, to me, the star.
Yes.
The star of the series. He started out as a 6th man, seventh man maybe, and then he ended up being the starter, and he just lights out.
Yeah, he was nailing every shot. All right, speaking of lights out, and we'll have to ask him if Spoelstra did Eric Spoelstra give you a call at some point, Ed Garcia from Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, and say, hey, I know the Heat have been a fine organization. He's happy to be a part of it, but the best organization in town is Texas Roadhouse. Why don't we bring in Ed Garcia for the pregame speech? Did you speak to the players before Game 7?
I tell you, all I can tell you is that I sent Caleb and Jimmy Butler a bone-in ribeye. I sent Caleb a 26-ounce and Jimmy Butler a 28-ounce. Ironic, that's how many points they scored in that game. So
interesting. Yeah.
Hey Ed, we've got to mention that this has got to be, the Texas Roadhouse has got to be a great place to watch the game.
Oh, it's been absolutely fantastic. You can sit around the bar, having that ice cold beer is absolutely fantastic. Fresh baked bread, and obviously the peanuts, that nice salt goes great with the beer. So absolutely great time to watch the game.
How can you taste the salt in the beer?
Oh, it's fantastic. You have a couple of peanuts and then you drink that beer. There you go.
Yeah. Is there anything that goes quicker now with the playoffs going on?
I'll tell you, come into Texas Roadhouse, our snake bites, you get that appetizer. It's got a little bit of heat. Again, it's a 2-day process for us. We take that ball of cheese, we mix it up with some jalapenos, different seasonings, some peppers, and then the next day we go ahead and give it that nice cornmeal so it gets that nice crisp edge when we fry it. And you have that with, a margarita made from scratch, our sweet and sour. And that is one of the big differences that is out there versus when you go to other places. There's so much processed stuff in that sweet and sour mix. Ours is natural, so you don't get that nasty feeling inside. And what's really cool is you can be like Lubie and down 7 of them. And
Lubie, I don't think they have enough gift certificates for you.
I think some of those are still at the radio station, unfortunately, collecting dust in Lubie's secret cabinet where we stashed all the free stuff that we got.
Lubie's the Caleb Martin of margaritas, I tell you. Nothing but net.
Nothing but net.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I would imagine the momentum just continues to gather, too. I mean, you would have your finger on the pulse of what the fans are doing here. Seemed like we started a little sluggishly. Everybody thought the Panthers were going to get bounced out by the Boston Bruins. That was logical. And that the Heat would go down to Milwaukee and it would be sayonara. We'll have a long, hot summer with the Marlins and wait for training camp to open up for the Dolphins. But this has to be a blast to watch what's going on in town at your various locations.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So come on in, check it out. So much great stuff that's happening inside of the restaurant. And on top of it, the bartenders are absolutely fantastic. They will take great care of you. Great wait staff. And even if you want to get away from the game, we have the dining room and a great family fun atmosphere to check out. So love to have you in. You let me know when you're ready.
All right. Okay. Yeah. We're going to have a watch party.
We have to get back. Yeah.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah. Keep inspiring the teams too.
Absolutely.
All right.
Have a great day, guys. Appreciate you.
Ed Garcia, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, you know that's a point that he brings out, that you have to go to Texas Roadhouse, you got to sit at the bar, and you got to watch the game.
Yep,
just like that.
Yep.
I'm all in on that, especially when you had both of them going at once, which was a little bit annoying.
Yeah,
that was not easy to do. Yeah, and I'm sort of
lucky
lucky in those spots where I have to change back and forth, and you can linger out of a basketball game. You know, sometimes in hockey you turn away and 3 goals are scored in the 2 minutes that you were gone. Basketball, you know, it's probably going to come down to the end anyway. Although you're trying to keep track of what's going on. So in this case, we can comment on it. But when they were going simultaneously, Tony, that was rough. You definitely had to be in some kind of sports bar situation.
I had 2 TVs going on at the same time, so I was looking at both. But to your point, I looked away for a second. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. It stresses me out.
It's like, wait a minute. When did it become 4-2? What the fuck?
Hey, listen,
it's unbelievable.
Listen, now we can't let this go by without saying something about the girls' softball team.
Of course. Well, Florida
State.
Are they playing? Oh no, I saw that, Tony. I thought of you immediately. Yeah. No, they were. They won a regional, right?
They won the regional, and they won their super regional. And now they open up against Oklahoma State. Thursday night.
Oklahoma State, who is not Oklahoma, but still probably formidable. No,
they're pretty good. So listen,
what do you think about UCLA getting upset there, Tony? For a sport that I don't follow. I mean,
that was huge.
There you go.
Huge.
Thought of you right away. I did. I said, how the hell did they not even get out of their regional? I mean, amazing. And they lost to like some schmink college.
San Diego State. The assistant coach for San Diego State is a former Seminole.
Of course.
So she knew exactly what to do.
That's crazy. All right. Well, good luck to the girls. Is your daughter still involved with this at all?
No. Well, she's
too immersed in her professional career.
She's with Embassy Sports, but they call her back every once in a while, and she'll do some social media for them and some things like that. So,
where do they have the World Series? What's the location?
Oklahoma City. City.
Of course, they play the home team. Oh,
yeah.
All right. I mean, let's hope they do well. I mean, that program, you're in love with them there, Tony. And will you be venturing out there if
no,
it gets that far?
Well, maybe
you don't have the family stake in it that you used to.
No. But we have to remember that they play a game that is so different than everybody else. And that they just speed. So we'll see what they can do against Oklahoma State.
All right. Hopefully they look a lot better than the Marlins did in the 9th inning last night.
Yeah. Oh,
when,
God.
Balls were just rolling through the legs of the shortstop as if Bill Buckner had taken the position.
The Marlins are pitiful. They're just pitiful.
Well, you're doing all right, Tony. What are you talking about?
Good. That's what's annoying.
They were only like 4 games out of first.
Yeah. What is their record? 4-20?
No, they're fine. They're a game over 500. You're reading the newspaper upside down now, Tony. You're like Lloyd Daniels on the bus on his way to meet Jerry Tarkanian, where the people said, "How did this guy get into college? He's got the newspaper upside down." All right, we love you, Tony, and glad you're doing well and everything's okay. And we will look forward to talking to you again. Thanks as always, Ed Garcia at Texas Roadhouse. And let's do one of those watch parties, Tony, pretty soon.
Yeah, let's do it.
Next week.
Okay, next week it'll have to be, because these series could be, very short-lived if the experts are right about the Denver Nuggets. So we'll only have to hang on to the hockey. All right, thanks, Tony. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen. Old School, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. I tell you, it's going to be rocking. Wow, would this be a great place to take in all of those playoff games, huh? You get that Latin vibe in there, too. Also going, everybody's, you saw what it was like at the, World Baseball Classic. What was more fun? I was talking about this crowd at the French Open, which, by the way, our good friend Jim Sarney said he posted, I believe, on Facebook, the last 8 minutes of this Monfils match. All right, which, Lubie, I'm telling you, it's so entertaining the way the crowd reacts that it's actually worth, a view. Because if you want to see a sporting atmosphere. But the atmosphere of World Baseball Classic, very much like it'll be, if you're partying down at Hialeah Park, watching all of these playoff games, and they're all on different nights, right? All the way through, like almost, sort of every other night. We're getting either the Panthers or the Heat for the next couple of weeks, we hope. And Hialeah Park will have it set up just beautifully. Plus, you can get great food and drink all over the place there. Not at ballpark prices. Probably cheaper than most bars you go to. Going to the casino at Hialeah Park. And, if you're a high roller in there, you're probably drinking for free. So, maybe, what would you like tonight? Would you like the Cuban sandwich, the Mina Noche, Mr. DeForest? And you're like, yeah, sure. What's the price? Free for you. Unbelievable. So many amenities with the Players Rewards Card. The program is really outstanding. One of the best anywhere in the gaming industry. And this is basically a family shop, right? I mean, the same people been there for years and years and years, as long as I've known the place, and still just doing a great, marvelous job of giving you that sort of family feel in a casino, which, is there anything worse, Lubie? You walk into a casino and it's just ice cold. The vibe is cold. The people look like they're about to pass away.
We have a few of those here, yes.
You don't know if you're at the slot machine or, in the food line at a nursing home. I don't want that. I want a vibe. That's what we're all about, the vibe here on the program. And Hialeah Park has that, man. Poker, outstanding. The simulcasting room there, Champion Simulcasting Room, great. Belmont Stakes coming up a week from Saturday. We'll see what happens there. Always big occasions are just perfectly appropriate if you're in attendance at Hialeah Park because, wow, I mean, you know you're going to have a good time. And then the casino is just rocking there with giant payoffs all the time. This Steve Calabro, he's a madman when it comes to the numbers. He knows how to make those payouts start sizzling all the time. And, hey, look, I mean, you want to stay in the game, Lubie. You don't want to just have them, rake your money off the table like they do at some Native American casino out there in the middle of Nebraska. That happened to me, so I do have experience with that. Are you sure this deck has 52 cards? Not even sure, right? You don't know what you're getting into. You do at Hialeah Park. You're going to get into a whole lot of fun. So check it out for yourself. The ultimate entertainment destination. Beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, coming back with more. Craig Minervini going to join us pretty soon on the program. We'll delve into the Panthers series against the Las Vegas Golden Knights and see what he thought about what's transpired so far. The Mini-Man joins us in just a few minutes here on the show. I'm Jeff DeForest. He's Mike Lubie Lubitz, and we will return with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
You are Lubie Lubitz, aren't you? It's 8:24.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
This comes from the great Defo Llama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Having a good time with you on this fine Wednesday. There will be no Mike Mayo lunchbox today. Mike has some personal business to attend to, and you and me doing the show. I guess we could talk food, Lubie, but we decided to go ahead and take a pass on that, and we'll be coming your way tomorrow.
You want you and me do a show where we talk food? Like, I feel like that won't happen. I feel like we'll talk sports again for another hour.
Oh no, talking food is very enjoyable, man. Very subjective too.
I like it with Mayo. Like, Mayo guides it. Like, I feel like we're gonna morph back into sports talk, and Joanne will have the time of her life.
There are many complaints being lodged about the predominant conversation being about sports teams, and it's great. I mean, look, what kind of wild anticipation! I honestly don't know. I mean, I'm thinking, yes, of course, the Panthers have a legitimate shot. Anything can happen in that series.
Yes.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine the Panthers getting swept.
No.
I could see them sweeping though, and winning. I mean, and yet at the same time, it looks like one of those things where as we've seen. I mean, the relatively even nature of these teams in the playoffs in the NHL. I mean, you talk about a league that even though they have many star players and teams that seem to be laden with more star power than others, is there not a tremendous amount of parity in the National Hockey League?
I was gonna say it feels like every team has at least 1 or 2 stars. Like looking at the playoffs,
and is in with a shot, right?
Like they're like, well, the Maple Leafs have so much talent. The Panthers aren't great. Well, Kachuk was the best player in that series. So you had written Bob Borowski off as dead, and then he comes back and dominates.
Beyond dead, he was a detriment. If he was dead, you would have been better off because then they couldn't play him.
You'd rather,
or like we say, I mean, they could put him in sumo wrestler fashion in front of the net there, and whatever went in over the top, I mean, you were just going to have to live with, and you have to figure that. Listen, I mean, short of pulling the goalie, we may as well try this. But yeah, when he came in that game, which series was that? That was the first series.
It was the Bruins, I think.
The Bruins series, yeah. I mean, you thought, oh my God, how fucked are we?
I was stressed out. I was like, I don't give a shit that Lyon's giving up 3 goals. This guy's going to give up 6.
Right. And Lyon was like, he had a shaky mitt there. I mean, it was, like watching Ron Swoboda out in right field before he made those 2 catches in the World Series. And you thought, don't hit it to that guy. I mean, it was like finding the fat kid in right field, which was always a target of mine whenever playing, any level of baseball until you got to the point where they actually had like,
everyone's good.
Somebody to look more like Roberto Clemente than Beaver Cleaver out there in right field. What was Beaver that fat? I don't know. He's not really a good example there. Anyway, yeah, I mean, very tough to gauge there. That series anything could happen, and it wouldn't surprise me. Is that a fair statement, Lubie?
Yes.
Demonstrating our in-depth knowledge and analytical ability about hockey.
These 2 teams, I don't know if they're mirror images, but they replicate each other a lot. Like
seem similar. Yeah.
Aggressive defensively, they get after it offensively. They thrive on getting the bounce, the right bounce. Their goalies have led them to this point. Like they're very.
This guy Hill has been really good. Really good. And I don't know that they give up so many shots, the Vegas Golden Knights. Although, at times they've been a punching bag also. I mean, they had that little spurt there in Game 5 when they had a chance to wrap up their series.
Yep.
They were up 3-0 against the Dallas Stars, who weren't showing that many signs of life. They looked a little shell-shocked. The Stars, who were lucky, to escape the Seattle Kraken, an second-year expansion franchise. But we've also seen where that's not such a disadvantage to be an expansion franchise in the NHL because Gary Bettman must be taking money from somebody, whenever they buy into the league. Do you think how much of the fee, the expansion fee goes to Bettman directly? Where he says, we're going to rig this so you actually get good players.
Yeah, I love that it's 30 years too late. Like the Lightning and the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, we essentially, you would have to say, had Scribini's that Roger Nielsen had a way of playing this pathetic Dean Smith, 4-corner strategy that actually was beneficial for these guys, and they wouldn't need much. And they had a decent goaltender, so he was able to build around that, even though they didn't have, these high-powered scorers like Mario Lemieux and, all of these other superstars that they were beating the pants off in the postseason. That was not an easy ride, though. This team has kind of mopped up the competition once they got rolling against the Bruins. So we'll get Craig Minervini on here in about 10 minutes on the program, and we'll try and get some more detail on that. But, how much does hockey depend on matchups of lines and things like that? Do you buy into that, Lubie?
To me, it all seems
and the fourth line has to go out there and be productive and all of that stuff. That's coming into play now.
To me, it's a crap. For me, it's shots on because the Panthers were outshot in almost every game. So it's activity at the net. Like that's what I've learned from this Panthers. Yes. The games that they're active at that, they don't always get shots on the net, but when they're getting at the net and letting Kachuk get in the way and letting Verhage getting away, and Gudis is getting
Bennett, yeah,
wrecking shop, and well, Bennett's played out of his mind. But like when they're active, not necessarily shots, because I think they were literally outshot in every fucking game.
yeah.
It's just being active when they're not letting rebounds off. And again, that's what they got in trouble the last game was Bobrovsky wasn't covering up and they weren't clearing out. But the other games, when they're getting rid of the puck on defense, even if they allow 30 shots, it's whatever. It's just get rid of the puck and get at the net. Even if they only have 18 shots, 20 shots, it's be around the net. When they're around the net, they're a really hard team to beat. And I think Vegas is very similar in that regard. I haven't really watched a lot of the West Coast because
Vegas does a lot of things very well. I mean, just from that last recollection of, when they built this huge lead over Dallas in Game 6, I mean, they scored in a variety of fashions, and all of it was very artistic. I mean, if you were looking for style points on these goals, Lubie, you were getting them. I almost called you Goldie here, thinking about shoot the puck. But I mean, they look great. They look like a very versatile team, and then defensively, they completely, for the most part, stifled. The Stars had a couple of opportunities, but not that many. And their goalie Hill has been good, throughout the season, and has been just as good in the postseason. So, although every now and then he gets touched up here and there. So, they've been fortunate also. I mean, they won, come out on top in overtime games. The Panthers, 6-0 in overtime so far in the postseason?
I think so. And Kachuk's been amazing.
That's a shame we have to wait so long for that. I mean, it's still a couple of nights away.
Sucks. Like, I don't get that it's Saturday. Like, that's weird to me.
Yeah, and it was a radical transition in terms of pace and, the amount of emotion that you were expending, in terms of rooting interest in the game, watching the Marlins play last night against San Diego, which, I don't know what Tony was looking at, but, the Marlins are playing a decent brand of baseball by any standard that we would have set. I mean, in terms of barometer, we thought the team, look, Dave Hyde, it rings in my ear, certain things stick with you that people say on the show. And we asked him if these moves were, of any substance or just strictly cosmetic. And I remember him coming right back and saying cosmetic.
Yep.
Now, does it help to have this guy Arise is a pretty good fielder also, and he's hitting .375. That can't hurt your team, can it? So, I mean, that hardly, looms as a cosmetic move. Pablo Lopez, the key guy that they traded for Arise, who was the American League batting champion, they added him into the lineup this year, in a lineup that you thought was, badly, power starved. I mean, just choking. I mean, the Heimlich maneuver type choking, in need of an infusion of power. And then they got a little spark, right, from Sarni's man Soler, who hits 17 home runs now, and is almost as hot as Aaron Judge, who I believe pounded his 19th yesterday in 40-something games. This guy's, having a killer season, coming right back from being Roger Maris just a year ago and almost winning the Triple Crown. In fact, if it wasn't for Arise, Aaron Judge wins the Triple Crown last year. Then are people giving the MVP to Ohtani? As, many people considered, I guess, I don't know, was Judge, he wasn't unanimous, was he? Didn't Ohtani get solid support for the MVP?
Ohtani was definitely in on it. I mean, he was fucking great.
Yeah, not that he wasn't deserving of it. The fucking guy is a Japanese Babe Ruth. I mean, it's amazing.
Judge just set the Yankee record. He didn't set the Major League record, no matter what people want to tell you. He didn't. But he did set the Yankee record, and that was a big fucking deal. Ohtani didn't do that. So that's why Judge ended up winning. But it was a very tight race because Ohtani was a top 5 or 10 pitcher, and he was probably the best all-around offensive player by the end of it. Because remember, Judge started to struggle near the end of the year. Ohtani was just a fucking monster the entire year.
But, overall, you hit with that kind of power in today's modern-day baseball, and then hit for average also, almost good enough to win the batting title. And, of course, you're going to knock in a lot of runs when you hit 61 home runs for the Yankees. So, that went together with the home run title. But imagine you had to win a Triple Crown almost, come within an eyelash. I mean, it came down to the final few games. He seemed to be pressing, trying to hit that last home run. And his average dropped a few points while the rise was hot. And other than that, I mean, think about that. You almost had to win a Triple Crown and still may not have been accorded the nod for MVP. Holy Shaquille O'Neal. What does a man have to do? So, all right. Craig's going to join us, in a few minutes? Is he?
Supposed to. I was back from him this morning, which is Not always a great thing with Mr. Late Night Fun Time, Craig Minervini. So
game went by fairly quickly last night, although the ninth inning was seemed like it took forever, especially if you were rooting for the Marlins in that one, as they coughed up 5 runs. So what do you think? I don't know. Did he party after the game? Hang out with Tommy Hutton?
I do not know. He's usually good with his commitments. He is responsible, as fun as he is. I have not heard back from him this morning.
Okay.
We're going to get Craig Minervini.
No, we'll try to do that. That'll be great. All right. We'll come back and do that in a few minutes if we connect with Craig Minervini. Otherwise, we'll have to live without I love his Bob Murphy impression. Do we impose on him to do that even on today's show, even though we've done it every time he's been with us?
Yeah, but it's great. I love when he does it.
Well, when he talks about Tom and Nancy Seaver and a picture that's in the yearbook that was suitable for framing. You don't know how many yearbooks I sold during my 5 years of hawking souvenirs at Shea. That was like the number one item. It was kind of like, basically like hot dogs would be to the food. The yearbook was the metronome by which we fed off, and then you would try to unload various other items that were all made in some very shabby fashion in Taiwan. I don't know how many bobbleheads were in a box that the head was, dismembered. It was crazy. Did you ever buy a bobblehead doll and the head's already off, or the spring?
No.
Not sure what sweatshop they were going to for the production of these Met bobbleheads, which were $1.50, which wasn't bad because the yearbook was only 50 cents. So, you much preferred unloading these bobbleheads. And then a partner of mine and I, we started pumping, and it shows you that advertising works. The Met blow-up doll, which my friend Ira, I think, has one, a life-size one. It's a female. But no, we had the little Met squeegee doll. Did you ever see one of those? Lubie? No?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
We unloaded a lot of those, and we unloaded a lot of straw hats. The little fedora straw hat. I mean, if it was sunny outside and you were down there in the lower section of Shea, believe me, man, we were waiting for an absolutely blasting sun to break through. And then we'd run down the aisle there, like very cool, while everybody's schwitzing, and offer them these sun hats. And they sold like hotcakes, Libby. I mean, you couldn't get rid of them fast enough. All right, coming back, hopefully with Craig Minervini in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Anything to get in a game for free, right? It's 8:39. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar now.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here. Why does this come as, not necessarily even a slight surprise to me? Because as much as we love this guy, we don't know if he's going to make it here in the morning. And we tried to schedule him as late as possible. Craig Minerini, our good friend for many, many years. And a gentleman I was looking very much forward to talking to because he's been on this magic carpet ride. And let's face it, if you work for the organization and you're doing their games on TV, you're going to have a natural tendency to believe, and have a little more faith in the team maybe than the average fan. Correct? I mean, would you say that's a fair statement?
Yes, you lean the team. I mean, it's not a shock that they're quote unquote homers. There's just
you can't help it, right? I mean, all the players and the factions involved. I mean, one of the biggest turnarounds in terms of the reversal of form of public opinion has to be regarding Paul Maurice, the French Joe Philbin. No, parlez-vous français? Yeah. Right. I mean, if Philbin had gotten up there and been speaking in French, complimenting the other team on pounding the shit out of the Miami Dolphins while he was the head coach in the post-game press conference, if he was wearing skates, he would have been Paul Maurice, no? We didn't know anything about this guy except that he was the losingest coach in NHL history.
That's true.
Think about that, man. I mean, there were all these guys, legendary guys. I mean, you would find out maybe that was Don Shula not only the winningest coach, but the losingest coach in the NFL? Is that possible? Because the guy just coached a lot of games. I don't know that he was. I mean, I would think not on that.
No, because it wasn't like the NBA where you'll be 30 games over, or 20.
Yeah,
you just coach so long, and then you have these years where you're under. Like that was Shula's thing. Was every year they were a playoff team, but like 2. So to be a playoff team, you usually are a few games over 500. Like I have to look up who the losing is, but I don't think it was Shula.
Couldn't be, no. I mean, who would it be? I mean, somebody that was with a horrible team for many, many years. You would have to be in a league for a long, sustained period of time.
Jeff Fisher. Yeah, Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher.
He hovered around 500. He's like, no, and if you want to go 8-8, Jeff Fisher's your guy. Yeah, Jeff Fisher's the losing assist.
And now he's like a mascot for an XFL team, is he not, Jeff Fisher? Who played his college ball while I was covering the Trojans, I believe, at USC. And was part of a very dynastic group of players there, which I did see a quote. This was a good one from old Nicky Saban. He now gives the thumbs up to the current status and conditions in college football and says, you know what? If we have to treat these players as employees, that's what we'll do. He's all in on this. Nick.
Oh, good. Welcome. I'm glad.
I mean, why does he have to pass his blessing like he was the fucking Pope?
Why? Did you hear this guy, the Missouri coach who just got an extension, even though Missouri's done nothing while he's there?
Yeah.
He got a ridiculous extension because the going rate's like $4 or $5 million now for average coaches. He complained that players are making more than his brother, who's a psychologist. Like his brother's a doctor of some kind, pediatrician, and players are making more than the pediatricians. It's like, yes, they are. Thank you. Well, how much are you getting paid, fuckhead? Like, what do you think? It was like the stupidest. It was like,
yeah, he's got 12 million. He's got clauses that guarantee that if anybody ever makes the same money as him, he gets more. Not that he's about the money there, Nick. It's all about the kids. I'm with Tony on that, especially when you're talking about Nick Saban. Why is it that every time he opens his mouth, I feel like he's a sporting version of Ron DeSantis? Nick Saban. Would you even? I wouldn't even consider using Aflac Insurance. Would you? I mean, this is reverse Q rating, where you despise a guy so much that you would not support anybody that he endorsed. And, Neon Dion, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I wasn't necessarily, I don't like the cocky guy, Lubie. I don't know about you. He's an FSU guy. Sure, you're a big Neon Dion fan.
No, I hated Dan growing up. Dan, and now I hate him again because he loves to talk but not actually do anything. And I hate guys like that.
I mean, it was always, and I wasn't sure. I mean, look, the guy was as a cover corner as good as it get, right? Very exciting as a return man.
Great returner, yes.
Wasn't known particularly to want to get involved in terms of any tackling that took place in the secondary. He was running the other way. I think Marino had more tackles than Deion Sanders. Remember when Marino would, feint like he was chasing a guy down after a pick?
I was going to say,
like running, literally, like he was the one-armed man in The Fugitive trying to escape detection.
Marino wasn't Andrew Luck. I don't remember Marino really chasing.
No.
He's like, fuck it. He'd go to the side.
and score.
It was like Peyton.
Those were always great, though. He would pick up the chase at about the 15 from the middle of the field, And the guy was already by him. I mean, it wasn't happening. And, then he would sort of jog over there and then wave at the guy. That was Dion, right? When he was tackling?
Yes, Dion did not tackle. He was not an all-around defensive back. He was a great cover corner. That's this specificity I use when it comes to Deion Sanders. But he was.
I didn't love him as a baseball player either. And I'm not sure. I mean, it was kind of exciting when do you remember that when he was like playing games on a Sunday in the National Football League? What was he with Atlanta at the time? And then, and then going and playing baseball.
Yes, he did that multiple times. McCarver mocked him openly in a game, and he had a sick game. And then after the game, called.
He threw a beer in McCarver's face or something. Kind of a classless gesture. No, I don't care what the guy said about you, right, Tim McCarver?
No, Deion.
So who cares if he says he doesn't like what you're doing? That was very insulting and condescending and uncalled for. And another reason why I wasn't like that big of a Deion Sanders fan. And then he started to win me over a little bit, like the other way. Is that possible?
Maybe for you.
Yeah, you hated him no matter what.
Knowles, so I appreciate his time with the Knowles. I couldn't stand him in the pros, and now as a coach, he's a loudmouth ass.
Okay. Let's move on.
I'm sorry. I'm very definitive.
Talking baseball here on this show today. So you would have rather had, a sit down, at a dinner table with Mike Mayo and Marge Schott.
Oh, Jesus.
If Mayo had invited you to, one of those freebie dinners that we enjoy so much. No, I don't think Mayo would have appreciated Marge Schott either. So I didn't mean to include him in that. Yeah, Dion, I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of negativity, thrown his way this year. Already, you saw Narduzzi out of Pittsburgh saying, "Now, what kind of asshole is this guy? He's ruining the game." Now, Nick is all smiles because he must be getting his players paid for it.
Well, yes.
By all of these stumpies that are, running around there in Tuscaloosa saying, "Don't worry, Nick, we'll be able to take care of this." You're like, okay, that's great. College football, man, has definitely changed. College basketball, too. As seeing the landscape. Jim Larinaga, I remember when he mentioned this, and we thought, you know what? I mean, it's Larinaga saying it, so you have to buy it. But he was saying it will never be the same. When we first got into these name, image, and likeness conversations, and what's permissible and what's not, what's going to happen, and then the transfer portal and all of that stuff. And it's true. I mean, so Nick finally acknowledged, we're running a professional franchise here.
It is.
Something I suggested 50 years ago, and people mocked me. Just declare basketball and football teams that are representing universities as separate pro entities, and forget about all these stupid rules, right? You're not going to be able to enforce them. Teams that have, big financial advantages are still going to prosper. And the rest of the teams aren't going to be that good. That's all there is to it, right? They're going to be the Houston Rockets of the world. The Detroit Pistons, perennially bad teams that, maybe never had a moment of glory. So, I remember when Larinaga was saying that, I was thinking, is it really going to change all that much? And sure enough, it's total helter-skelter chaos.
So far for college basketball, it has leveled the playing field because of the transfer stuff. The one and dones actually are a detriment because you don't really have time to wait for the young guys to get together. Teams realize I have a hole. I don't want a freshman. I can get this one guy who's a 20-point-a-night scorer in college already to come and fill in. A freshman's just going to slow me down. Because look at the Dukes. Look at the Kentuckys. Like they struggled. It was UConn who was transfer laden. It was the Hurricanes transfer laden. Even FAU actually had a decent amount of transfers, and that was a large part of their success. Like college basketball, it has actually leveled the playing field. Those that thought it was going to do that in college football are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
They've always been using money. Money's always been there. The Nick Sabans of the world and all that. Well, now there's money. Really? Now there's money, Nick, because you're just such a great recruiter. They're all going to Alabama because of the words you're saying with your mouth. Get the fuck out of here. It's always been about money, and now they're allowed to do it legally. You don't think they're going to have more? Like, come on. Like, the joke.
Some guy doesn't want to just go and play for Nick Saban because he's such a nice guy. Well, I mean, the preparation for the pros, too. I mean, he's essentially running, a minor league franchise there is what we've stipulated all along. And everybody, that follows sports knows that was what college athletics was essentially about. Although we do want to believe in the virtues. But apologies to our dear friend who joined us today. And we love this man. Tony Segreto, because it's nice to believe in, that kind of stuff. I mean, and you would hope that would be the case, that these were the principles that all of this stuff was founded on, but we know what it is, Lubie. It's the almighty dollar, and that's it. All right, I think we learned something today on the program, and that is, that it wouldn't be worth it to hedge that $100 bet that my son has at 16-1 on the Miami Heat, would it? You would have to hedge on 400 to get your 100 back. At that point, you now have 500 invested in the bet, and you're going to clear 1,600. So you can either win 1,100 or get your money back. Is it worth putting up the other 400 for that?
Nah.
What do you think? You can't lose. You diminish your winnings by $500, almost a third. And at the same time, I mean, at least this way, would you do that just to protect the $100 that you originally invested? That's the question. Would you have been happy? And I think if the odds were 11-1, the Heat would have been just as tempting, no?
Yeah, he did. Look, where it is now, the returns are so diminished. $100 is not big of a deal, you would think. You don't want to keep eating into the profits to not make it.
No, I mean, you took a shot. You took a wild shot. You let it ride?
Yeah, for sure.
My buddy Marty the Party Sachs does something that I would never consider when he's playing craps, and that is parlay the hard ways. Think about that. He has like $25 on a hard way, right? That pays 9-1. So what do you get back on that? That's what, 2 something? That you get back on a $25 wager. It'd be 180 plus 45, 225, right? So now you have 225 going, and now you could collect that 225. Not easy to do because the hard ways are largely considered to be somewhat of a sucker bet that people like to make when the guy's rolling. You're playing the hard ways, you're hitting everything. Look at that, another hard 8, unbelievable. And most of the time it's just getting raked off the table there. The guy takes that little rake out. What is that called?
I don't know. Rake. I don't fucking know.
It just rakes the money off.
Yeah, I think it's a rake.
Looks at the pit boss and says, okay, boss, that was a pretty good roll. I mean, the house made a lot of money there. Parlays that then at 9-1. Think about that. And then if he hits that, he sometimes lets it ride a third time. Mm-hmm. So what would that be? I mean, at 9-1, 225 is about, a couple of grand.
Yep.
So if you hit it the third time, you're going to win $18,000 for your 25. Now that's a score, Lubie.
I don't know.
Odds of that happening pretty close to 0.0, although I have seen it happen.
I say just, man, let it ride and see what happens. The Heat, as much as I feel the Nuggets are the better team, they have found a way in every series, and Tyler Hero will play in this series, and that will add another factor. And who knows what Jimmy Butler and Bam we get. Butler looked a little bit better in the fourth quarters of the last 2 games. He was more engaged in both of those games, and Bam defensively was a savant. So maybe Bam can finally wake up offensively. I wouldn't look. The Nuggets should be the favorite. The Heat winning won't surprise me. They just won't. Like Jimmy, and people like Ken are like, yeah, fuck it. Jimmy Butler not even being willing to touch the Eastern Conference trophy, and he did, last time they went to the finals, he touched the fucking trophy. The fact that when Bam on live TV tried to hand him the trophy, and he said, "Fuck that," and he openly said,
"I don't want this garbage." Like Riddick Bowe throwing a WBC heavyweight belt in the garbage.
No, he said, "I'll touch the next one," and he meant it, and he wasn't fucking around. I wouldn't put it past this dude to finally wake up and be like he was versus the Bucks. And if he's like that, then they will beat the Nuggets. And I can see them beating the Nuggets decisively because Butler, when he's playing like that, is the best player in fucking basketball. He just hasn't done that since the Bucks series.
Is Spoelstra some kind of Boris Spassky-esque chess master?
I don't know. The way he was
figure out a way to diffuse the overwhelming efficiency of one Nikola Jokic, who he's not as I think this, Lubie, I would look for this. If I was defending Jokic, not me personally, but if I was defending Jokic, he'd have 50 points in the first quarter. The way he kind of backs his guys down, I mean, he's not as it's not athletic the way he does it, but he does have some moves. I mean, he has a little bit of quickness to the way he makes these moves, but he dribbles the ball very high.
Yes.
While, he's kind of backing his way in. And I would think that would be the way to try and stop him. I know he's a very clever passer in those spots, so it's hard to leave a guy open, from close range.
I wouldn't double him. I'm like,
but don't you send a guy down to swipe at the ball? No.
I wouldn't mind
when he goes to the floor
and then go back, but the full on committing a double like the Lakers did, it worked for like 5 minutes where they're like, ooh, look at what the Lakers Rui Hachimura's dominating now, and Anthony Davis is allowed to roam. I was like, yeah, okay, it worked for fucking one game because the Nuggets weren't ready for it. The rest of the series, Jokic did whatever the hell he wanted, and the Nuggets annihilated the Lakers doing that.
They won all 4 games, yeah.
You got to single him up. And if he goes off, let him go off. You can't get beat by the 3-point ball because they're not the Celtics. Where the Celtics have shit shooters and somehow shot well this year, the Nuggets have great shooters. And the Nuggets.
Excellent. Yeah, they've been sharp.
You can't leave him open. You just can't. So if Jokic kills you, he kills you. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think doubling him. The problem is doubling him won't stop him. We've seen him score in double teams.
Yes. And then it's like he's shooting pool the way he dishes the ball off out of the post there.
So to double him is
like he's Willie Moscone, man. Just, 8-ball side pocket and it goes right in. Because he's very clever about that. All right, we'll see. I mean, a very exciting time, Mike Lubie Lubitz. The wait is on. Meanwhile, I'm going to fulfill myself here but with a little more French Open. That was fantastic. If you get a chance, if you're on Facebook there, you have to befriend Jim Sarney to get this?
I don't think so.
Sarney's going to be inundated with friend requests here, and I don't answer any of them anymore. Do you? They all have to be generated by hacks, no?
You learned. It was like always 22.
I'd open one up, and the next thing you know, like Bozo the Clown popped out of my computer there. Like a jack in the box. Like, what the fuck happened here? Alarms go off. You must pay $300 right now and make this telephone call, or you will lose complete control of your computer. We have taken over. I always hate that. You're on a porn site, right? And it comes up, and then the wife happens to come down right at that moment while, like, sirens are going off and everything. You're thinking it was like being Woody Allen.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he's at the counter there buying a copy of Orgasm magazine, right?
Oh, Jesus. And they yell out over him.
What movie was that again? Now I'm in a fog on it. That wasn't Bananas. Oh, something, Everything You Want to Know About Sex, right? Wasn't that one of his movies? Everything You Want to Know About Sex Without Really Asking. And then he's up at the counter there, and, he's got like 10 magazines he bought as a disguise. And there's some like nun behind him online. And then the guy that's at the counter goes, "Hey, Lou, how much is a copy of Orgasm?" Always embarrassing. Always embarrassing, Louie. We had a lot of fun being with you. Our thanks to Eric Reid. He was brilliant today on the show. I really enjoyed that. And you can catch our interview probably with Eric Reid on 5 Reasons Sports Network later if you missed it. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll have a Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge, right? Gurgle's in?
Yes, he is in.
Okay. And that'll get us ready for Heat and the Nuggets. And I'm not sure what more, we can add to that, although we'll attempt to in some way. 2 games during the regular season, both won by the Nuggets. Neither was a runaway.
Oh, and this man will keep his promises. I've been trying to have him on for a while. He is as great a songstress singer for the Panthers as there is. Randy Red Deer Moller.
Oh, Red Deer Moller. Nice. Yeah, beautiful.
And will join us tomorrow.
Okay, so that'll be a lot of fun. I love Red Deer. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks for joining us. Mike Mayo returns with the Lunchbox tomorrow at 12.
Yes.
And we'll be joining him at Wicked Cheesesteaks. And that's always one of our favorite spots, man. I mean, Brian couldn't feed us any better, could he? I mean, all of our places really are dynamite when it comes to that.
Take care of us. That's one thing.
Wow.
Very
I mean,
in that regard.
Yeah. When you're already thinking about what I'm going to order, I mean, it's a day in advance of lunch. That's what the box is all about. All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, too, right here on South Florida Live. For Mike Lubie Lewitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for joining us. See you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
You go lobster roll, cheesesteak, the Lubie. It's 9 o'clock.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.